Julian Cross stood on the street curb, the rain blurring the outline of two demolished houses. One was painted a predictable pale beige, its structure suggesting stability and comfort. The other, across the street, was vibrant, almost violently red beneath the wreckage, implying passion and chaos. The glass shards on the pavement were not from one disaster. They were from two futures, collapsing simultaneously, merging into a single, unfixable tragedy. He had returned to this moment the exact day he was supposed to choose. He had seen the ruin that resulted from choosing Clara Myers, the quiet, suffocating comfort of the beige house. He knew the cost of turning away from Elise Hartman, the explosive, essential love contained in the red house. Time had granted him a reversal, a chance to find the courage he lacked the first time. But Julian Cross was a creature of habit and fear. He clutched the lapels of his oversized beige coat, the symbolic refuge that had become his undoing. When the pressure mounted, when Elise's intensity demanded vulnerability, he couldn't and oppose. To offer, he had turned away again. He had walked across the lawn, not toward the difficult, terrifying joy of Elise, but back toward the easy, predictable silence of Clara. He repeated the choice. He chose comfort over her again. That second decision cracked the timeline. Now, he didn't and oppose. T merely faced the consequences of his original mistake. He faced the terrifying reality that his cowardice had doubled the destruction. He watched a beige wedding photo of him and Clara dissolve, while simultaneously, a vision of Elise and Apos. S. lonely eyes stared back at him from the ruined red house. He went back in time, chose comfort over her, and doomed tomorrow twice. The silence that followed the twin collapse was profound. Julian closed his eyes, the guilt a physical weight pulling him into the wet asphalt. He thought he knew pain the first time. This was worse. This was the consequence of self-sabotage, an act so profound it fractured reality. But to understand the end, the ultimate, devastating failure, you must witness the beginning. You must see the precise moment he was given the choice to save himself and her, and how, paralyzed by fear, he chose the wrong path not once but twice. It started 5 months ago on a Tuesday morning with a simple text message. Julian Cross stood rigid in the hallway, the scent of rain and damp asphalt clinging to his coat. He was home, but the concept of home felt like a lie told twice. Outside, the night was exactly as he remembered. Friday, October 12th. The moment he chose the comfortable silence of Clara's life over the volcanic intensity of Elise's love. He had relived the crushing consequences of that first choice 1,000 times. He knew the devastation, the cold regret that led him to his first miserable future. He was supposed to walk through this door and choose the chaos. He was supposed to choose Elise. His phone buzzed. It was Elise. Her contact photo, taken years ago in the low light of a bookstore, made his chest ache with a phantom limb pain. If he answered now, if he told her the truth, that he was terrified but willing, the first timeline of failure would dissolve, replaced by a fighting chance at real happiness. He lifted his hand. The phone felt impossibly heavy. Behind the closed door, he could hear the faint, measured rhythm of Clara loading the dishwasher. Predictable, quiet, safe. Clara was the beige sweater he clung to, the refuge from the storm of feeling Elise guaranteed. Julian remembered the end of the first future. Years spent with Clara, pleasant but hollow, culminating in a mutual, unsurprising divorce. Then, the years of watching Elise thrive or struggle, without him, always carrying the invisible wound he had inflicted. It was a failure of passion, a failure of courage. He swore he was different now, 34 years old, but carrying the weight of a lifetime's worth of regret. He was meant to be brave. The phone vibrated again, Elise's second attempt. Julian looked down at his shoes, then at his own trembling hands. To choose Elise meant dismantling the life he was standing in, immediately. It meant facing fear, confronting their past arguments, and building something fragile and real from the ground up. It meant being truly seen. To choose Clara meant sliding back into the established groove. It meant a mortgage paid on time, quiet evenings, and manageable, low-stakes disappointment. His breath hitched. The fear, That cold, suffocating blanket he thought he had shed slammed back into him. It wasn't Apos. The fear of failing Elise. It was the fear of succeeding with her and discovering that he was not worthy of that success. He let the call go to voicemail. He slipped the key into the lock and pushed the door open. The warm, stale air of predictability hit him first. Clara looked up from the kitchen counter, her blonde hair perfectly in place, a soft, unwavering smile already set. She was wearing the comfortable gray cardigan he liked. End quote. "You're late," end quote. She said gently without accusation. End quote. "I saved you some takeout." End quote. He walked toward her, shedding his actual coat, moving automatically toward the beige one draped over the armchair. He settled into the familiar space, accepting the plate she offered. End quote. "Sorry," end quote, he mumbled. End quote. "Long day," end quote. He watched her move, efficient, graceful, predictable. He saw the timeline lock into place, the exact, precise repeat of the fatal night. End quote. "Julian?" End quote. Clara prompted, noticing the hollowness in his gaze. He took a bite of the food, swallowing the bitter taste of his own cowardice. End quote. "It's perfect, Clara. Thank you." End quote. He had chosen the comfort. He had chosen safety over salvation. He had failed the test of time twice. The air in the living room immediately thickened. It began subtly. As Julian set down his fork, the window pane behind Clara seemed to shiver, not from wind, but from an internal vibration. The reflection of the street lamp outside split, briefly showing two parallel lines of light where there should only have been one. Julian blinked. The reflection stabilized. End quote. "Is something wrong?" End quote. Clara asked, concerned, reaching across the table to touch his wrist. When she touched him, a piercing sound, like high-frequency feedback mixed with the sound of cracking ice, flashed through Julian's inner ear. For a split second, the tidy, organized living room dissolved. He was standing in a different space, a narrow, cold hallway. He saw a mirror, cracked down the center, and in the mirror, he saw not Clara's soft face, but the silhouette of a much older, profoundly sad version of himself looking back from the ruins of their first life. Then an overlapping image, a different ruin. This hallway was darker, permeated by the smell of dust and burnt wood. He saw Elise, wearing a black dress he'd never seen before, weeping silently, her eyes devoid of fight. This was the collapse of the second future, the future resulting from his repeated error. The visions lasted less than a breath, but the impact was physical. Julian gasped, pulling his hand away from Clara as if burned. End quote. "I need air," end quote. He choked out, pushing away from the table. He stumbled out onto the small back porch. The cold October air was a shock. He looked up at the sky, searching for some anomaly, but the stars were indifferent. He clutched the railing, trying to categorize the event. Was this guilt manifesting as a hallucination, or was the timeline itself screaming? Later that night, as Clara slept soundly beside him, Julian stared at the ceiling. The silence of the apartment was no longer comforting. It was pressurized. He heard a noise from the spare bedroom, which they used as an office. A sharp, distinct sound of glass breaking. Julian slipped out of bed, pulling the beige sweater around him reflexively. He crept down the hall. The office was dark, lit only by the pale streetlights filtering through the blinds. Nothing seemed disturbed. He flipped the light switch. The room was neat, but on his desk, scattered amongst the organized piles of bills and papers, lay a handful of perfectly formed, sharp shards of glass. They were too thick to be from a window. He hadn't an Apos. He owned anything made of glass on the desk. He picked up one shard. It was warm to the touch, and it seemed to hum faintly. As he held it, the temporal dissonance returned with force. He experienced a rapid-fire succession of images. 1. Future A. An image of Clara tearing up a marriage certificate, her face stony. 2. Future B. An image of Nathan Pierce, the antagonist he knew would eventually appear, holding Elisa's hand at a distance, looking protective and possessive. 3. Future a view of his own grave, stark and unvisited. For Future B, a glimpse of a different type of grave, not his own, but a metaphorical end, a final public argument with Elise ending in total annihilation, witnessed by Samuel. The fear was primal now. It was not just regret, but cosmic horror. He hadn't Apo's. T just changed his own future. He had fractured reality by committing the same fatal error twice. The next morning, his brother, Samuel Cross, arrived unexpectedly. Samuel, a man of blunt honesty and thick calloused hands, took one look at Julian and frowned. And quote, "You look like hell," end quote. Samuel stated, accepting the coffee Julian offered. End quote. "Just stressed," end quote. Julian replied, deliberately avoiding eye contact. He smoothed the creases of his beige sweater. They were talking about work when Julian saw it again. He was describing a project deadline, but for a split second, Samuel's face superimposed with another image. A grim, furious Samuel standing over him, yelling, end quote, "You destroyed her, both times," end quote. The vision was so vivid that Julian stopped speaking mid-sentence. End quote. "You okay, Julian?" End quote. Samuel's voice was strained. Julian realized Samuel wasn't Apo's. T just reacting to his appearance. He was reacting to something Julian didn't Apo's. TC yet. End quote. I keep having these flashes, end quote. Julian admitted, the words spilling out. End quote. Like, memories I haven Apo's. T earned yet. End quote. Samuel leaned forward, his serious eyes boring into Julian's. End quote. "Listen to me. Last night I had the weirdest dream. It wasn't Apo's. A dream, I think. It was like I was standing in two houses at once. One was cold and quiet, and the other was just noise, a screaming silence. And you were at the center of both, looking completely lost." End quote. Julian's blood ran cold. Samuel, the unshakable realist, was experiencing the ripple effects of his choice. The temporal rift was bleeding into the surrounding reality. End quote. "I made a mistake, Sam," end quote. Julian whispered. End quote. "I chose comfort again," end quote. Samuel stared at him, disappointment tightening his jaw. End quote. "The universe gave you a rewind, Julian, and you ran back to your damn safety blanket. You didn't Apo's. Choose Clara. You chose the fear of facing yourself. And I don't think you just ruined one future this time. I think you ruined the attempt at correction itself," end quote. Julian looked away, his gaze falling onto the small pile of shimmering glass shards he had hidden in a ceramic bowl on the bookshelf. The world felt simultaneously mundane and utterly unstable. He was in the established life, the safe life, but the establishment was already crumbling around him, announcing its dual collapse before the first crack truly appeared. The unrest had begun. He had doomed two tomorrows with one repeated choice. Julian moved through the motions of the life he had chosen, the familiar routine with Clara acting as a heavy woolen blanket over the gaping hole in his chest. He was back in the comfort zone, and the security felt less like protection and more like premature burial. The visions increased in frequency and violence. They were no longer fleeting glimpses. They were short, brutal cinematic cuts. A fractured image of an aged Elise crying into a phone receiver, quickly followed by a current image of Elise closing her door firmly against an uncertain future. Julian would grasp at the edges of the timeline, trying to separate which impending disaster belonged to which choice. He started leaving messages for Elise, texts that were intentionally vague, referencing memories only they shared. His attempts were cowardly, delivered from the safety of his apartment, shielded by the quiet knowledge that Clara was making dinner in the next room. End quote. "I need to talk to you about something important," end quote. He typed, then deleted, end quote. "I made a mistake, the biggest one," end quote. He wrote, then deleted that too. He settled on, end quote. "Are you safe?" End quote. Elise replied 3 hours later with a single word, end quote. "Yes," end quote. The cold efficiency of the reply told him he was already too late to simply step back into her life. 2 days later, Nathan Pierce entered the frame. Nathan Wasn and Apos. T subtle. He was a storm system that moved quickly and cleared the air. Julian saw him first at a local bookstore, talking intensely with Elise, the conversation easy and physical. Nathan's jacket wasn't the comfortable, shapeless beige Julian wore. It was dark leather, sharp and intentional. He was everything Julian was afraid to be. Nathan didn't and Apos. T just occupy space next to Elise. He acted as a natural barrier. When Julian tried to intercept Elise walking home from work, Nathan was already there, holding her bag, walking slightly behind her as if guarding her flank. Julian's attempts grew desperate. He started staking out her apartment, sitting in his car, hidden behind the heavy collar of his winter coat. He looked like a stalker, not a redeemer. End quote. You look awful, end quote. Clara observed one morning pouring him coffee. She placed a hand on his cheek. End quote. Too much stress at work? You need to lean into this. We are good here, Julian. We are stable. End quote. Stability. The word tasted like dust. His brother, Samuel, caught him mid-crisis in the parking lot of their fabrication shop. Samuel leaned against the truck, arms crossed. End quote. You're repeating the pattern, Julian, end quote. Samuel said, his voice flat. End quote. Last time you chose comfort and she broke. You came back to fix it, but you just signed the same damn contract. End quote. End quote. I'm trying to make sure I don and Apos. T lose everything again, end quote, Julian defended, clutching his keys. End quote. You think you're in a time loop just because of your mistakes? Think bigger. Your initial choice was an Apos. T just bad for you. It damaged her permanently. The universe is trying to prevent two separate tragedies now, not just one. You repeated the mistake and doubled the risk, end quote. Julian dismissed it as Samuel and Apos' usual dramatic flair, but the words settled like acid. Later that afternoon, the big revelation hit him during a meeting with his financial advisor. They were reviewing stocks when the advisor and Apos' screen suddenly blurred. Julian didn't and Apos' T just see the familiar gray ash of his first collapsed future. He saw two distinct, yet overlaid, documents tearing apart. One was a marriage certificate dated 10 years in the past. The other was a deed for a small studio apartment dated 6 years in the future. The collapse was dual. The universe wasn't and Apos' T trying to save Julian from regret. It was trying to save Elise from the combined weight of two different timelines where Julian's cowardice defined her destiny. The consequence of the first choice wasn't and Apos' T erased. It was running parallel to the new consequence. Julian stood up abruptly, knocking his chair over. He had to stop running. He had to shed the comfort. He drove to the outskirts of the city, to a small park Elise frequented. He ripped off his beige coat, throwing it onto the passenger seat. He felt physically exposed, but clear for the first time in weeks. He found them sitting on a bench. Nathan was laughing, his hand resting easily on Elise and Apos' shoulder. They weren't an Apos' T just flirting. They had a rhythm, a shared history that had somehow accelerated faster than Julian could catch up. Julian approached them, his breath ragged. End quote. Elise, stop, end quote. Julian said, the desperation making his voice crack. End quote. I know this looks bad, but you have to understand. I came back. I came back to choose you. I know I chose Clara again, but that was just fear. It was never real, end quote. Elise looked up, her expression tired and utterly devoid of passion. End quote. You came back, end quote. She repeated, her voice flat. End quote. And you chose comfort. Again, end quote. Nathan stood up, towering over Julian. Nathan did not shout. He spoke with the quiet authority of someone who had done the hard work. End quote. You have a pattern, cross, end quote. Nathan said, folding his arms. End quote. Elise deserves someone who chooses her every single time, without the need for a time machine or a near-death experience. You Don and Apos' T get credit for showing up only when the comfortable option starts to feel stale. End quote. Julian tried to appeal directly to Elise, ignoring Nathan. End quote. The time is running out. This is all going to break apart, Elise. We have to be together. End quote. End quote. Go home, Julian, end quote. Elise said, finally looking him in the eye. End quote. My future is safe now. I am being chosen. End quote. The finality of the statement hit him with physical force. He had failed. He had taken his second chance and applied the same fatal flaw, ensuring the destruction of two separate possible realities. A sudden, sharp sound, like fine crystal shattering across pavement, echoed through the silent park. There were no cars, no children, no source for the noise. Julian looked around frantically. A small, decorative glass globe placed near the bench, perhaps dropped by a previous visitor, was now a pile of sparkling dust. It hadn't and Appos, fallen. It had simply decomposed. Julian stepped back, stumbling on the curb. He had destroyed the future twice. The first one through neglect, the second through repetition. Nathan put a protective arm around Elise, guiding her away. They walked towards a future that was secure and real, leaving Julian behind in the deepening twilight, surrounded by the invisible debris of two shattered tomorrows. The cold of the evening settled into his exposed skin, a cold far deeper than the absence of his coat. It was the absolute zero of fate sealed by fear. Clara, you're shaking, Julian. You've been preoccupied since you came back. We built something solid here, something predictable, something safe. Julian looked down at the hand holding the edge of his beige sweater, the symbol of the comfort he had chosen and repeatedly defended. The sweater felt like a straitjacket now. The stability Clara offered was no longer a refuge. It was the mechanism of his doom. Julian, I made a mistake, Clara. Profound one. Clara, you made a choice. You chose structure over chaos. You chose a partner who wouldn't leave when things got difficult. Don't confuse stability with mistake, Julian. That is just Elise's narrative. A sound, like fine glass shattering in another room, made Julian flinch. He was standing in his comfortable living room, but the sound echoed from a memory, or perhaps a future. He saw a flash. Elise's face, tear-streaked, turning away from him, overlaid instantly by a second, darker image of a wedding band slipping into the drain. Two endings collapsing into the present. His brother, Samuel, stood framed in the doorway, his face grim. Samuel, she's right about one thing, Julian. It was a choice, but the mistake wasn't and Appos. Choosing Clara the first time. The unforgivable error was choosing her again when you were given the chance to stop the damage. You repeated the cowardice. You compounded the sin. Julian felt a cold realization settle in his chest. He hadn't returned to correct one future. He had returned to destroy two. Samuel, Nathan is already there, Julian. He's filling the space you left vacant twice. He's the protective wall you were too afraid to be. If you run now, you run toward confirmation that you deserve neither of them. The blue tint of fear mixed violently with the dark red of the collapsing timelines in the air around Julian. He ripped the beige sweater off, throwing it violently onto the polished wood floor. It landed heavily, a dead weight. Julian, I have to tell her. I have to make her understand that the fear, it was never about her. It was about me, my failure to commit, my inherent weakness. Samuel, go then. Face the consequences of choosing comfort over courage. Julian ran. He didn't in Appos. Grab a coat, didn't look back at Clara's stunned face. He ran through the streets, the desperation fueling his legs. Every step was an apology delivered too late. He saw flashes of the disintegrating futures. A desolate anniversary dinner with Clara, and immediately, an image of Elise, alone and thriving without him, her happiness untouchable. Both realities were now dissolving into violet smoke. He reached Elise's street. Her small apartment building, usually warm and inviting, now seemed shadowed. He pounded on the door, his breath ragged. Julian, Elise, open up. We need to talk. I chose wrong. I chose wrong twice. Silence. He pounded harder, his knuckles aching. Julian, I came back. I knew I had to choose you, and I didn't. And I destroyed the future. I destroyed it again. The door swung inward, but it wasn't an Appos. Elise. It was Nathan. Nathan was dressed in the confident darkness of a leather jacket. He wasn't Apos. T aggressive, merely settled, anchored. His presence filled the doorway, leaving no space for Julian. Nathan, she's not seeing you, Julian. Not now. Not ever again. Julian, move, Nathan. This is between me and Elise. Nathan, no, it's not. It was between you and your fear. And your fear won. She's finally realized that she deserves someone who doesn't need a temporal reset to finally acknowledge her worth. Julian tried to shove past him, fueled by frantic necessity, but Nathan held firm, his eyes steady and cold. Nathan, you were given a second chance. The universe literally paused its progress and offered you a do-over. And you failed the test again. You chose the safety of the known path because true love requires risk. You are not a risk-taker, Julian. You are a retreat artist. From within the apartment, Julian heard a low, soft laugh. Elise and Apos' laugh. It was relaxed, contented. It was the sound of a woman who had finally been chosen, truly chosen, by someone else. The sound broke him. At that exact moment, the air around them fractured. It wasn't just a feeling. It was visible. The streetlights flickered wildly, cycling from yellow to deep blue to a corrosive violet. The window across the street burst inward, not from impact, but from sudden, localized pressure. This was it. The announcement of the second, simultaneous timeline collapse. Nathan, hear that, Julian? That's the sound of the future you doomed. Twice. Julian staggered back, clutching his head as the temporal feedback assaulted him. He saw the spectral image of the two destroyed futures. One where he was stuck in monotonous comfort, the other where Elise was happy with Nathan. Both faded, leaving only a chaotic void. Nathan, she's safe now. Go back to your comfortable life, Julian. Go back to the safety you desperately crave. But know this, you didn't just lose her. You destroyed every possible tomorrow for yourself because you refused to face the truth today. Nathan closed the door gently. The latch clicked with final, absolute certainty. Julian stood alone on the pavement, the residual energy of the collapsing timelines swirling around him. The beige sweater he had discarded flashed into his mind, his ultimate pathetic shield. He looked around at the street, now dimly lit and silent except for the faint sound of faraway sirens, the remnants of the temporal quake. He hadn't and Apos. T just lost Elise. He had used the most miraculous gift, time itself, to prove that he was fundamentally incapable of choosing love over comfort. He had returned to the past to correct his error, only to find that the error wasn't Apos. T a one-time decision, but an inherent flaw in his character. The universe gave him a fresh start and he self-sabotaged. He doomed tomorrow twice. Julian lowered his gaze to the ground, realizing he was standing in the ruins of not one, but two lost lives. He had paid the ultimate price for his cowardice. A future defined entirely by regret, doubled and inescapable. I know that this story is intense, and that is why I share these moments. If you value the truth and like stories that make you think and feel, do the following. Consider subscribing to the channel and comment what city you are watching from. It is the best way to ensure you do not miss the next lesson of life. The silence that followed was not merely the absence of sound, but the sound of two different futures dying simultaneously. Julian stood on the wet pavement, the harsh winter light reflecting off fragments of glass, the final, brutal visual echo of the second temporal collapse. It was a peculiar kind of desolation. He had spent years in the original timeline mourning the life he forfeited with Elise. Now, he mourned a second time, grieving a potential reality he had been given explicit instructions to build, and yet had failed to construct. The world stabilized, but Julian did not. He saw Nathan's car pull away, taking Elise away from his vicinity and into a life that would be built on certainty, not fear. She smiled at Nathan, a genuine, easy smile that Julian realized she had never fully offered him, because she had always sensed the withdrawal lurking behind his eyes. Nathan had shown up early this time, pushed into her orbit not by chance, but by the gravitational distortion of Julian's own recurring cowardice. Julian returned to the quiet, beige apartment he shared with Clara. Clara was asleep, the embodiment of the comfortable, predictable inertia he had chosen. The apartment smelled of lavender and routine. It was safe. It was sterile. It was the prison he had built for himself twice. He sat on the edge of the bed, the familiar, soft fabric of his heavy sweater clinging to him. The sweater, the beige coat, the structured life with Clara. These were not just choices. They were armor. And in protecting himself from the potential pain of intense love, he had guaranteed the absolute devastation of profound regret. He finally understood the mechanism of the time loop. It was not a cosmic joke or a failed machine. It was a perfect mirror, held up to a man who needed to see his own reflection of fear, only to realize that fear was the only thing he truly trusted. The future hadn't and Oppos. T collapsed because the choice was difficult. It collapsed because Julian was incapable of choosing courage. He had been given the ultimate cheat sheet, knowledge of the ruin caused by choice A, and yet, when confronted with the immediate discomfort and risk of choice B, he had defaulted back to A. He thought back to Samuel's face, etched with paternal disappointment, and realized his brother had known all along. The greatest obstacle to Julian's happiness was Julian himself. The two broken futures began to merge in his mind. In the first timeline, he had sacrificed Elise for comfort and lived a stable, empty life. In the second timeline, he had been granted a reprieve, offered the chance to undo the sacrifice, and yet, he had sacrificed Elise for comfort again. The results were mathematically identical, though the path was more painful. He had confirmed, beyond all doubt, that in the face of true, demanding love, he would always choose the path of least resistance. The devastation was profound because it lacked dignity. He was Nanapos. T struck down by fate, he simply gave up, twice. He looked at Clara. She was innocent in this second collapse. She was just the safe harbor he needed to keep his vulnerability locked away. He had used her as a human shield against the chaos and ecstasy that Elise represented. And because of that, two separate timelines, two distinct potential realities where Julian Cross existed, had been rendered void. The moral, he finally realized, was brutal in its simplicity. When given the chance to fight for something meaningful, hesitation is not caution. It is self-sabotage. The time loop didn't and Oppos. T fail. Julian failed the lesson the time loop provided. The cost was not just Elisa's love, which was now irrevocably bound to Nathan. The cost was the final, devastating knowledge that even if the cosmos granted him 1,000 chances, he would likely fail 1,000 times, as long as the fear of emotional ruin outweighed the desire for genuine connection. Julian stood up, walking toward the window. Outside, the world was moving on. People were going to work, living their single, linear lives. They didn't and Oppos. Tino, they were walking over the metaphysical ashes of two discarded realities, both destroyed by one man's chronic inability to be brave. The tragic truth was that the love he craved demanded bravery, and the comfort he craved demanded nothing at all. He had always chosen nothing. He had learned that second chances are not guaranteed to succeed, especially if the fundamental flaw, the inner cowardice, remains unaddressed. Julian Cross had not simply lost Elise. He had lost the belief that he was capable of earning her. The image that stayed with him was not the kiss he never stole, nor the fight he never won. It was the image of the beige coat, hanging neatly by the door, promising safety and delivering utter emptiness. He had bought comfort at the price of two futures. He didn't Anapos. T-cry. He simply stood there, permanently suspended between two shattered yesterdays, realizing he had finally achieved the ultimate stability, the complete, secure knowledge of his own worthlessness. The loop had closed, trapping him not in the past, but in the eternal consequence of repeating the same mistake. Now, I want to know of you. Comment here underneath. What would have been your choice in my place? Would you have made this sacrifice? And if you like surprising endings, I left another video here on the side. It Anapos. Es a shocking story. Click there. I Anapos. LL see you in the next video.